David, the politicians and the academics and the bureaucrats tell you gold is not worth it. Gold is a barbarous relic. That's what they call it. Maybe, but peasants like me throughout history know that gold and silver, okay, it may be a barbarous relic, but I'm going to own it.
Why do you think there's such a political incentive? And this is not the first time I've heard someone say this, but why do you think there's such a political incentive for the governments to keep a distance from gold? Why would they want to subdue the populace from owning gold?
Well, historically, it was because gold was money and was in the money system. That's why in the 30s, America confiscated everybody's gold and made it illegal, and the British and other people as well. It was the money system. It's not now, but still, it is a way where politicians will lose control. I mean, in 1971, Richard Nixon said we have to stop using gold, and he did, because they were losing control. And politicians don't like to lose control, and so gold is the obvious place where peasants like me will go in bad times. And I'm not the only peasant. When things get really rough, there are going to be millions, trillions hundreds of millions of peasants like me. And so they will have to try to do something.
Gold's at $2,000 an ounce now. This year it broke record highs. We've seen a lot more interest from the retail investment space into the precious metal sector, whereas before, young people like myself, for example, have shown a lot more interest in gold, whereas before they haven't really cared. Why the rush now? Why the gold rush now? Is it because of the coronavirus?
Well, David, you should watch Kitco News. I mean, this because governments everywhere printing money, printing and borrowing staggering amounts of money. All of us peasants know. We may not have studied economics at an Ivy League university, but we know that when you print money and borrow money, subconsciously we know this leads to problems. And so more and more of us are turning to gold and silver. Well, I doubt it. If I'm right, gold is going to go much, much, much higher before this is over. Gold it'll certainly get overpriced. It may well turn into a bubble. I hope it doesn't, because if it turns into a bubble, I'll have to sell it. And I never want to sell I want my children to have my gold and silver someday. But David, as I said, watch Kitco News. You will see that the world is really doing strange, unusual things. Never before in the history of the world have interest rates been negative. Never and before has a major bank like the Bank of Japan said we will print unlimited amounts of money. Sure, Zimbabwe prints unlimited amounts of money. Countries have done it. But now you have major people doing it. So yeah, this could turn into a huge bubble, and gold and silver could go much, much higher. I expect them to go much, much higher before this is over. Oh, yes. What I said to Jim was, usually when something has a bubble or semi-bubble like gold did in 2011, and then it pops, it corrects by 50%. That's just the way markets work. I wasn't talking about gold, I was just talking about markets when I said that. We've certainly had the major correction. I thought it might be a little more, but I'm not good at market timing. So no, we've had that correction. Doesn't mean we won't have more corrections. I mean, all markets have corrections, but I've been a buyer of gold since the summer of 2019, and I continue to buy. Well, we loved what we did. We spent all of our time thinking about the market, and we both loved it, and we've stayed with what we knew. You want to know how to be a successful investor. The answer is stay with what you know. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Kitco. Well, you can listen to Kitco, but don't listen to TV people, internet people. Just stay with what you know. David, if I told you you can only have 20 investments in your life, you would be very careful. You wouldn't be jumping in and out, listening to hot tips every day, every month. You would stay with what you know, and you would become a successful investor. Everybody watching this knows a lot about something, whether it's fashion or cars or sports or something. When you see something that you know is going to be successful and exciting, don't just say, oh, that's going to be great. Don't tell all you. Then you go and you do your research and you figure out how to, and if you should invest and how to invest, and then you invest. You will know it long before I will, or long before other people in the investment community. You will also know when to sell, because you will know when something's going to change again. Nobody likes to hear it, David. Everybody wants a hot tip. Everybody wants to be rich this month. Well, the second advice is don't listen to hot tips. Stay away from hot tips.
Yeah.
So just stay with what you know. I mean, it's boring and nobody wants to hear it. But that's how you become successful. You know, in those days, we did nothing but focus and concentrate and dig deep and dig deep and dig deep. That's how you become successful. Figure out what you yourself know best. When I first started, I had no clue. I once worked for a guy who was a genius trader. I mean, he were about 50 or 100 stocks on the stock exchange. He didn't know much about them. I mean, he knew IBM was a big company, but he didn't know he knew very little. But my God, he could buy and sell it. He once said to me, there's a block of 100,000 IBM for sale on the floor of the exchange. Go buy them for me at 90. I said, what are you talking about? How do you know? He was just sitting there reading the newspaper. I mean, the tape was running by. In those days, they had the tape running by. Sure enough, it was there. I mean, he was a genius short-term trader. He never owned anything longer than a week or two, but my God, he was good. But I am hopeless. I'm the worst short-term trader in the world, So everybody, I didn't know that people had different styles. I didn't know that wouldn't work for me, but eventually I found by trial and error what I was less bad at, but I was reasonably good at, and so I found my way.
Yeah.
I know I'm a terrible short-term trader. Well, I don't even try it anymore. I didn't know it then, but I found out. And whether the style picks you or you pick the style, for me, it was trial and error. Well, first of all, you just said something very important. You looked at all of those things, the income statement, the balance sheet, et cetera. You know, I found, David, early on that if you read the annual report, you do more than 90% of the people on Wall Street. If you read the notes to the annual report, you do more than 98% of the people investing. So back to what I said before, do your homework. This is not easy. Everybody looks on TV and they say, oh, I could have bought Apple 30 years ago. I could have done that. Well, maybe they could have, but they didn't, because it's not easy.